Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sit, Relax, and Let's Talk. This is, of course, yours truly, Mark Rivera. It's, again, an honor and a pleasure to be here with you all, listening. Thank you so much. And, as always, it's always an amazing experience, and it's always a blessing, and it's awesome to be able to have special guests on here with us. And it's nighttime already, so I'm going to say tonight, but whatever time you're listening to this, thank you. Appreciate it. Morning, evening, nighttime, thank you. So in this session, we have here, drum roll, Rebecca Yanez. She is doing her MFC and her PCC at Cal Baptist University, along with us, being part of we'll say the extended cohort. We're all cohort. It's awesome. And she's in the 3-year track, and had the pleasure of being able to see her today in class in our marriage and family therapy child and adolescent class. And told her, hey, how are you? Busy tonight? And she said, you know what? No, I'm free. And honestly, I was not expecting that, but thank you so much, Rebecca. I appreciate it. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. I'm doing great. I'm excited. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. How did it feel when I told you and I came up to you, hey, Rebecca, what are you doing tonight?
Okay. Kind of random.
Pretty random, right? Pretty random. I was like, but just to clarify, no. It's are you free tonight to do an episode for the podcast? And yeah, how did it feel when I asked you again for like the third time?
I've never been on a podcast, so I was interested. I was wondering
really? Interesting. You've never been on one. Awesome. So what are your thoughts so far? How are you feeling?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. She is not sure of her feelings right now. That's okay. No problem. We're warming up. So do you feel nervous though?
A little.
A little nervous? Okay, good. Me too. So it's both of us. I always get nervous when I'm on here. Just in case everybody hears, sometimes I do make mistakes. I do have little bloopers. Unfortunately, can't really edit and take them all out. So yeah, whenever you hear those, it's because I was nervous. Okay, so definitely. So Rebecca, it's so awesome to be able to have this podcast session with you. Now that we're doing this on video, we've transitioned now from just I used to do just pure audio, and you can't really see who you're talking to. You're just kind of like looking around and like kind of like just talking. But like this now of like being able to do these interviews and these conversations, like not face to face, but like actually looking at each other through the screen. Like, how does it feel? Does it feel comfortable? Does it feel cool? What do you think?
It feels comfortable. It's definitely more human than just talking over a phone.
Yeah, it is. And thank you to everybody that's done the podcast before. And we've done it like over the phone, and we've done it over, just audio. And thank you so much, everybody. You've done such a wonderful job. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And, definitely putting up, if you've seen through the Instagram, I'm putting each episode that we've done, and I'm getting the picture of who it was, and I'm just giving you that quote of the one of like, everybody's saying so many powerful things that it's hard to just pick one thing. It's hard. Just for like you here today, like I'm gonna keep my ears open and just listen to all that valuable content, to all that like solid material that you're gonna talk about, and just see like, okay, what am I gonna quote you for? It's awesome. So
no pressure.
What was that?
I said no pressure.
No pressure. No pressure at all. No pressure at all. So tell me, or tell us, Rebecca, about your story. What was it that kind of brought you into the program to begin with? Kind of into counseling psychology. What brought you into this?
It's actually kind of an extreme story. So I was at a job where it was like a corporate job that made good money. It was entry level. But I felt like just super depressed. Like I felt like if this was the rest of my life, like I just didn't even want to continue, because it was just, to me, there was no point in what I was doing. Like there was like, I didn't feel like I was doing anything. There was no passion in it. The only point was that it makes money.
Mhm.
So I was really unhappy there, and it kind of hit a head because of just so many different things, like my uncle passing. I went through a really hard separation with a partner, and then like just like a bunch of just different things like kind of came to a head at once, all at like
Mhm.
a point in my life. And so
Yeah.
I ended up getting really, really anxious due to depression. Didn't, back then I didn't realize that depression leads to like really bad anxiety. And
Mhm.
I finally went and got like help. And while I was in there getting help, because like I actually was partially hospitalized because of it, because it was like I was so like severely like not able to function. Like I got so depressed and anxious. I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping, like I was just not functioning. I got to,
Really?
so it got severe enough that I was partially hospitalized. And so I would meet different people that obviously, like, I was diagnosed with major depression disorder and like anxiety disorder. But some of these people had like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, like some very serious
Yeah.
disorders. But I really liked all of them. That's what was so funny about it.
You're front row experiencing not
Yeah.
just your own pain and sufferings, right? Your own thing, but like witnessing and seeing all these other like, and we're talking about schizophrenia, we're talking about all that stuff, like front row seat to all that. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was. It was super intense, and it freaked me out at first, to be honest, because I used to have kind of almost a phobia of mental illness, which is actually
Really?
chronic.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'd seen it in my family, and I was always like, oh, we never talked about it. It was a bad thing. But when I was around these people, some of them were just depressed like me, and they were some of the kindest people I'd ever met. And when they asked me how I was, they actually cared, like genuinely
Mhm.
about how I felt, which was
Mhm.
different because most times people don't care. And so it started with a love of the actual people that were going through these things, like an actual love of them. And
Wow.
like one guy, that he was schizophrenic, and like I wasn't around people like that a lot, but you would see them kind of if you were like getting treatment in like the facility. And I remember like I said something to him, and like he kind of like he was in like an episode at the time, but you could see that
Mhm.
went through him, and he like actually smiled, and you
Wow.
could see like the humanity in him, and how like
Yeah.
he was honestly just ill, like he was just
Yeah.
ill. And then there was another lady. She freaked me out though, because she had a bipolar disorder with hallucinations, and she told
Mhm.
me there was like purple elephants floating all around.
Oh, nice.
So for
Did you actually
me,
look around? You were like,
yeah, I did. I like looked around, like it freaked me out. Like it did. It scared me.
Mhm.
But through going through that, and then I even went through Loma Linda's program too,
Uh-huh.
like through a couple of different programs to trying to find the right help, because it's not always easy as going to one place. I just
Mhm.
many different people, and also like watching people heal. Like there was one that was transgender, and
Uh-huh.
he not getting accepted by his father, and none of us even knew he was transgender. But when he finally came out of his shell and he started being happy and opening up, it was just so awesome to see him go from this little shoveled person to like
Yeah.
up. So it was just
That
like,
transformation, huh? Yeah.
yeah. And that's what when I was going through that, and the personal change I went through, like going from what I was to where I became. And I know I have
Mhm.
more work to do throughout my life. It,
Yes.
to me, it was like, this is a really important thing that needs to be
Mm.
in the world. And then I was also so curious and fascinated, and no longer afraid of like different illnesses. Like if anything, I wanted to learn more about them. I wanted to help these people. And so that's where it really started, is having to go through, like, reach a really low point where I had to get help myself to realize, like,
Mhm.
this is what I actually want to do.
Wow, that's such an amazing story, as wow, just kind of picturing, just kind of like uh as you were telling that, I was just, kind of imagining all that stuff going on, and it's amazing. So for you to actually experience that personally, right? The depression and the anxiety yourself, and going through that process of, okay, getting treatment and doing all that stuff, and dealing with that, and seeing firsthand, like, like the level of like what that world, or the world that we're in now, right? This world, for those listening, the world of, we call it psychotherapy, you want to call it, all these illnesses, and to be like front row and like to get to experience all that, right? That was just like I could picture it. Like it was amazing, perplexing, and it was just like so inviting, right? Because that awoke your curiosity, you would
Yeah, we
say.
were treating around Alzheimer's patients in one of the areas, and there's some funny Alzheimer's patients. Like you see the humor in it too, and then like
Uh-huh. Yeah.
a lot of the more depressed patients had really dark humor, which you should not feed into dark humor. They had some
Oh my
jokes.
God. How dark is dark? Is
Well,
it?
we were watching the TV, and they're talking about someone that committed suicide, and then he was
Uh-huh.
like a success story, and I was like we all
Wow.
laughing because a lot of people had like been suicidal or something. So he was like, "Look
Yeah.
at a success story," and I was like, but we all started dying.
Oh my God. He doesn't have to suffer no more. Look at that.
Yeah, but I think it was being human with other people,
Yeah.
being truly human.
Yeah.
A lot of your walls kind of came down when you're around people that
Hmm.
that you had been going, that you had like kind of reached the same spot.
Yeah.
You got a really low point, which because
Yeah.
the majority of everybody was just depressed, like
Hmm.
the clinical depression.
Yes.
So it was a very human thing, and it showed me this is something that I feel like I can be on the other side and have true passion because I really truly understand.
Hmm. And Rebecca, that's amazing because I think that's something that we all kind of have in common, you know, in one way or another. It's like we all kind of have our little thing that we're dealing with, our little personal stories, that we all have, I'm going to share mines eventually, I'm just waiting. It's a little, it's a little sad, but hey, you know what? But it's another time. But it's so amazing though to hear that from you because I hear that a lot, from us that are in this field, that our hearts and what is it that's inside of us that makes us want to go into this type of work, which is it's not easy. It's very emotional, very draining. What else? Give me some more description. What else could we talk about that it does? I don't
It
know. How do you?
requires you to not like think about yourself all the time, like a lot of
Mhm.
jobs it's very much like you are kind of like trying to step on people to work your way up, but that's not really this job. Like it shouldn't be this job. Like that's not what you're about when you go
Uh-huh.
in. And for me, I was like, even if it's like the hard work, it's the kind of hard work I felt like I could do.
Yeah.
Like because like for me it's worth it. It's worth it.
Mhm.
Like for me, money is not worth it enough to do certain things, but
Yeah.
to actually be something in this world that helps it
Yeah.
is for me worth actually going and doing the work.
Definitely. Right. The kind of like the result that you get from it, and like we said, you don't immediately get to see like what are the rewards or the results of the work you put in, right? I mean, sometimes you'll go and you'll have like that experience of like, okay, you see a little bit something. I mean, after you've been working with someone for like a month, 2 months, 3 months, like, okay, you start seeing a little bit of changes and they realize it too. And then you're talking and it's like, oh man, this is awesome. Great job. Keep up the good work. This is amazing. You're doing great. Now let's move on to the next thing. What are we going to tackle next? So that's like type of reward, right? But you don't always get to see that. And that's kind of like
Yeah.
one of the things about this job, right? It's not necessarily rewarding in that manner that like it gives you like that, oh, hey, yeah, right. What do you
Yeah.
think? What do you think about that?
See how like they do like get better because I think a lot of it is like what the professor says, like a lot of it is done outside of therapy. So like you help them in like these ways that are very detrimental, like just like certain pivotal points, but then they
Mhm.
walk it out on their own.
Yes. Yeah. So kind of like with yourself, let's talk about, so you're in the 3-year program, which is not technically like 3 years, right? But they call it
2.5.
the 2.5, right?
It's like 2.5 years.
2.5, just like the 2.5-year program is not 2.5, it's just 2 years in a semester. But hey, but anyway, so you're in your second year, right? And you're still not at that point of having your practicum site and everything. So you're going through a lot of the experience of like, kind of preparing and learning from preparing for it, right? Kind of like listening to all this stuff. So as we're in the same class together, right? Kind of in this the child and adolescent class, and there are several there who are in an internship and who have clients and who are talk about their experiences and talk about that stuff. Tell me, how did that sound for you? Kind of like that. You haven't gotten there yet, but like what emotions and like what thoughts are like going through your head as you're listening to all these people, especially that one guy, Mark, because that guy, Mark, he talks a little bit, right? Yeah, that guy. Mark, this guy that talks, like, he likes to share a lot of stuff. But anyways, so what do you feel like when you're hearing like these stories and like these, like, like these victories and like these,
nervous because like I want to be doing the same. So for me, it like makes me want to get into a job where I'm kind of already starting to do that, even if I'm not in my practicum. But it kind of just makes me nervous because for me, my biggest thing is like that first step in there, that first person you're ever going to talk to, that first, all of that, like, it's just like nerve wracking and nervous. Like, and then another thing too is like, I don't feel like I look very old. I feel like I look younger, and
yeah.
I don't.
No, you don't look old. You
I
don't
don't
look
know.
old.
Yeah,
Besides, how old are you? You're like what, 26, 27?
I'm 28.
20.
I don't look very old in the sense that like I'm also wondering like how I'm going to be taken when I actually do practicum. Like I have to honestly dress professional, very professional, and like really go like the full thing to try to make sure like
okay, yeah,
more older, more professional, because there's times I feel like I can still look like I'm in high school or something, and like coming to you for help, and you're looking so young. Like that's one thing that I hope is not a barrier when I start to try to help and treat people, is that they see that as a barrier between me and helping them, because my family just looks young in general. Like we don't really start getting older until like maybe our 50s. So I'm not going to be looking like old. And so I'm just like, I hope that people can take me seriously. And I'm also a little more meek in certain ways. Like I don't like to be super assertive when it's not needed. I like to be softer and more malleable in the long run, because I don't feel like there's a need to be assertive all the time. I also wonder if that will be okay, or if I will have to learn how to be more assertive in certain ways. Like I don't, because like sometimes I feel like I am too passive on certain things. For me, a lot of times I don't think a lot of things are huge deals, because they're not. Like, a lot of times things don't have to be a huge deal. But if you're smaller, if you're a female too, like sometimes you need to be more assertive so that you can kind of get the respect and to be heard. I'm like, all right, am I going to have to learn how to be assertive without being disrespectful? Or like, I'm wondering how I'm going to have to balance like certain ways of being in my professional career, that like that's like my thing, thinking out throughout the like what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, and it's such a it's such a good way of thinking. It's such it's a valid thought to have, and to kind of think like, okay, where do I, in this situation, maybe it might not work for me, or what should I do, to prevent and to avoid all these things. Kind of just looking ahead, looking at the distance, right? I'm going to share with you a little bit of kind of like, for myself, it's crazy because once you start, and once you're there, like once you're in the field, once you're out there, and you come across like just, you come across variety. We're talking about like Napoleon, we're talking about no, not Napoleon. What ice cream is that? The flavor, all flavors. Which one?
Neapolitan.
The Neapolitan, yeah. Close. I was close. The Neapolitan, right? All kinds of flavors. It's like you're gonna get like all types of, not just situations, and not just like, okay, what symptoms. You're gonna get all types of conditions, and trying to make all these assessments, and just trying to figure out. But you're also going to get all types of personalities and all types of characters. And for me, one of the things that I've experienced, and that I'm continuing to learn from, is that for me, one of the big things is that when I come across older people, especially when I'm talking about like now couples, and I'm kind of trying to talk to them, like giving them advice and talk to them about like couples, right? And then I'm trying to give them advice. I always want to say something like kind of like, like I've experienced, and I've had this and I've had that, right? And just to kind of give myself a little bit of, so this is why I'm telling you this, or I've been able to look into this, and I've done a lot of research, just stuff like that, just to give myself a little bit of, a little bit more like value to my word and stuff. But the reality for me, something that I've seen is that it's just honestly all about like your delivery. It's all about the kind of connection that you're having. It's all about the relationship that you're having and what they're feeling, the rapport that you're having with them. Once you're in the same vibe, once you've gotten to them and they're like listening to you, all that stuff goes out the door. All those other thoughts of like, do you have any experience, all this stuff. Once you have that connection, and once you yourself have that connection with yourself, and you're like, you know what? Yes, I know what I'm talking about, even though sometimes you really don't. You're just kind of just out there, and you're kind of like thinking all this stuff. But it's interesting. I'm saying when you're one-on-one, when you're in these situations, the variables are what have and determine a lot of kind of like what's going on. Yes, presentation. Yes, how do you communicate? How have you established your rapport, right? Do they trust you? Do they see you as a, have you gotten that respect from them? Yeah, like, do they see you like, you know what, this is a therapist. Okay, so tell me more. So what can I do? So it's kind of like that. Interesting. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? About the rapport?
I think rapport is really important. I think that being able to just kind of connect with someone on a human level is essentially what rapport is. And one thing like is that they always say in classes to be authentic. And I think for me, I was like, that's not a problem, because I suck at lying. I suck at pretending to be another person.
Uh-huh.
I suck at all of that. I've always have. I always have. Reason why, like in certain social settings where like that's a big thing, I've always not fit in, because I'm really bad at being inauthentic of who I actually am. So for me, they say that, I'm like, I don't think that'd be too hard of a problem. I think at first it may be a little like trying to get past my nervousness to be more just me. But as far as like putting on any kind of show, I don't have like an interest in doing that in life, let alone like my career. So for me, I think like that is something that I want to be and do. It's just more, sometimes when you're your authentic self, like you're going to see like what patients you do really well with, and maybe what patients you don't always do well with.
Yeah.
Because maybe some patients like how you are more authentically, but maybe some patients don't like how you are more authentically. Like, and me, I grew up in a really blunt family. So for me at times, it's best to be very direct, especially certain things. It's probably best to just be very direct with them, because they're just never going to see it, or maybe this is something that's like a real problem behavior that you shouldn't tiptoe around. And so for me, I can feel like I am a direct person in that, but I would be like not knowing if I should allow myself to be blunt, as not blunt, because I wouldn't think about it, but like direct.
Yes.
Because I've learned in the past that people don't always like to be told honest truths, even if they're not criticisms either. They're just honest truths. They're observations. They're things. So it's just like trying to know when to say it, or maybe know how to say it, where maybe you're not them, but you're having guiding questions. Like you're just going to ask them questions until they eventually get to that point that you already see,
Yeah. So now kind of like as we're talking about this, and we're talking about like all these experiences and like what you're listening, what you're hearing, especially in this podcast, because in this podcast, the guests that come on here, they talk about their experiences. And I know you've listened to every single one of the podcasts on here, right? You've listened to every episode, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much. You're amazing. Um, but as that all this is happening and all this is going on, like, um, what are your thoughts of kind of like as you're still proceeding and carrying on the rest of your classes and going to like now let's look into like the future, like where do you see yourself now that you weren't like when you first started the program to like where you are now? Like, how do you feel like that you've grown, and how do you feel like your experiences so far have helped you, or maybe not helped you?
I think that theory and um, obviously we need to learn the things like the DSM-5, the theories. One thing I really like about CBU is that they're not super they're human about it. Like we talk about people as humans, we talk about these things relating to human beings.
Mhm.
Shut the door. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
That
No worries. No worries.
was my cat coming into
Yes.
my but we talk about these things relating to human beings, and I like that because I remember I was going in my undergrad, I was going to do psychology, but that actually was not my undergrad major because I
Uh,
remember how unhuman it felt when they would talk about things and talk about, I don't know, like it's just like talk about like the mental illness, and that's like what this person is, their mental illness, like not like
yeah.
with a heart, a soul, a mind, and so
Uh-huh.
many complexities behind these symptoms. And I love that CBC is never, not CBC, CBU
CBU. Uh-huh.
done that. They've always made it clear that this is a human being with complexities, issues, spiritualness, like all these different things. And so let's not look at them as a diagnosis. Let's not look at them this way. So that's one thing I've appreciated throughout the learning process is that it's very human. And for me, I appreciate it too because I've gone through it. And I think that if I had been at a school where they dehumanize it in a way, or they kind of make it clinical, like super
Mhm.
clinical, like if we're like just like cold in a way,
Don't
it would have,
smile. Don't
yeah,
smile. Don't make them
yeah,
laugh.
like it would have
Be
been like,
serious.
yeah, it would have been like hard on me because like I've been through it, and I would have been like probably like very turned off of like, oh really, this is
Yeah.
like so I like that it's human, and I
Yeah.
like that we understand that this is something that there does need to be love and compassion and empathy, like obviously in
Hmm.
a professional manner, and that
Yes.
love, compassion, empathy, all these things can be professional. They don't
Yes.
have to be romanticized like Hollywood or anything, or the world,
Hmm.
anything kind of makes it.
Yeah.
That these are things that can be very professional, and they can be used as actual tools
Exactly. Yeah.
like in your job. So that's one thing I've appreciated about CBU, and that I like, that I don't know if you would get from a secular school.
Hmm.
Secular schools, like they don't like to talk about the spiritual aspects of humans, and I just believe that in every human being there is a spiritual aspect to them. There's something more going on than just a mind and a brain, and like there's more to it. And
Yes.
so I like that they take that, and I also like that culturally they always do bring up that different cultures like have things where they'll talk to their grandparents, or
Hmm.
where some people get ghost sickness. Like I don't
Yes.
know exactly what it is, but there's just different things that are very normal in cultures, and I
Uh-huh.
like that they bring it up so that we know not to like take that and make it into something it's not, like call them schizophrenic or something when they're very clearly not. That's just completely normal for their culture and their spirit, like their
Yeah.
spirituality.
Yeah. And that was something that today Professor Rios was talking about, right? And I really enjoyed some of the stuff that she was talking about today, and kind of in that aspect, in that, kind of like the culture, right? Culturally, there are
Mhm.
things, and we have things that are, what is, abnormal, right? What was the definition? Was that was the word, right? Abnormal? Yeah, abnormal. And automatically, like for me, like abnormal, okay, something that's obviously something that's not normal, it's strange, it's different. But like I had to actually look it up because I was like, hold on, this seems a little deeper. Let me see, let me look it up. And then I was like, what society, what society considers to be different or to be
Mhm.
a little offset, like off, That's abnormal. So those are like, it was so interesting, and that you mentioned that too, that how that ties in, that is like the complexity of all that happens, all that goes on, kind of like in this realm, in our minds, in our lives, right? We talk about like our experiences, our personal experiences, right? Then the cultural experiences that are passed down to us. Then we talk about generational traumas that are passed down to us. And then we just keep digging a little bit further back, right? Like what's in our blood, what's in our, it's like it's so
They've even been experimenting or doing like tests to see about like trauma and how it literally becomes biological, like actually biological, like in your blood.
yes.
And so that's why I feel like nothing's cut and dry. Nothing is black and white when it comes to treating people. And you should go into it with that mindset so that you listen to them and that you don't prejudge and that you're really giving them the best treatment they can and that you're treating them like an actual human being. And a human being is just extremely complex. They're not something that you can put into like a list of things. Like you can't really do that. Like we do these lists to try to help them, but ultimately we're also allowing them to guide us through treatment. Because if you try to go off a rigid list and you don't go off of what's actually going on, you're not going to be giving them the best treatment they can get.
Yeah. Honestly, listen, as I'm listening to you, I could tell you, I'm gonna say personally, I'm gonna tell you, you're ready. Are you ready? You're ready. You're ready to go out there. You're ready to go make some damage. That's awesome. That's how good your school is. Look at, they already have you prepared. You're ready. You're ready.
Oh, I'm an overthinker, so all these things like that we're introduced to, it's like I've already thought about so many, like the philosophers, everything. Like I think about different philosophers and I'll even think about their logic and where they're going. I do not like Freud. I'm going to admit.
Go, okay, well, she brought it up. Everybody, she said it. She said it. Let's see. We're listening. Tell us why you do not like Sigmund Freud, right? Not the other Freud.
Most of his stuff while he was super high on like I forget what, but he was
Yeah.
super high.
Was it shrooms? I don't know. He was on something. He was on that like good stuff. He was on the good stuff.
Not this thing about women having penis envy, which you gotta like at that at this point. And then he said that him smoking cigars had nothing to do with penises, which was really funny. And then like his like phases of like growing up, I just thought were kind of odd. I feel like I understand them to a degree and they have logic to a degree. And that's the thing is like, stuff that's like, yeah, like this is the beginning of something good. Like it is. But it's like, but let's take this and like let's work with it more.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's go a little deeper on it. No, and it's so interesting that you bring that up, because I think that occurs a lot. That happens a lot, and especially when we go back to the history, right, of psychology and the history of like counseling, and then even further back, kind of like where they derive and they get like they get pieces of the scripture, pieces of the Bible, which is like the original kind of like, and then they kind of feed off of that. And then it's just been just kind of, and then no, hold on. You know what? Let me change this. I am a philosopher. I am a scholar, and you know what? Let me make it my way. And so there are some things out there that are pretty interesting, to say the least, right?
There is. It's fun to read certain philosophers, and then I think it's called postmodernism, the newest way of thinking, which is everyone is right in their own way, is very confusing and very, very frustrating. I had a friend that was super into it, and I would get in discussions with him, and he would actively change the meaning of a word while we were talking.
Please share. How does that work? Share
like,
with us, please.
A word, and I would be like, okay, so what is this word meaning? And I was like, because a little while ago, this word meant this, and now you're using it again. And so if this word means this, then this is what you said.
So you change the context of it, or just the complete definition?
Yeah, I would get the context, everything. And then he was like, well, that's not what I meant that word to mean then. And I was like, that's like, because he was very postmodern and thinking he can kind of just change the meanings of things and, like mold everything kind of to his facet, his himself. And it was just frustrating because I couldn't have a conversation with him where we met anywhere, because like that's postmodernism. It's like, you know, if it works for you, then it's good. You know, like if it's your truth because there's no actual truth. And it was just very, very confusing. Like I felt like trying to understand him, I would get almost anxious. Like I didn't understand anything. And there was nowhere that we could just meet, you know, and kind of like meet somewhere. So there's also that form of philosophy.
That's dangerous. That is dangerous right there. That's dangerous.
It is because it starts to like question like super big things, like is murder really wrong? Because if we're saying if it's really wrong, then some people can say that they don't think it's wrong. So in their world, murder's not wrong. Like it literally can go that far with the idea of postmodern way of thinking. I'm like, this is just getting scary.
For real, it just gets way too, you know, way too critical in a lot of areas, and especially, you know, when you start throwing in now, we talk about racial customs, we talk about, you know, kind of history, and we talk about all this stuff, and you know, it's just like there's so much that if we dig in too deep, you know, it's just gonna completely just take you sideways, because there is no, you know, there is no, if you try to think of it like that, you know, it's too much. And I think kind of like that bringing it back to kind of like that point of like, you know, for some, I mean, you could say like Sigmund Freud was human, right? And such amazing things that he did.
Real demons. Like I read more up on him because I wanted to understand him more.
Okay, this is good.
And he had
how many papers have you written on him already?
I haven't read like a lot of things, but I just read about his background, and he had things that he was trying to cure himself of, from what I was hearing. And so from what I think it was him, he died from assisted suicide with a physician because he developed like a very I forgot what kind of illness, but it was also like he was very unhappy as well. I think he had like really bad anxiety and depression. So a lot of what his research was trying to cure himself of it. So that's what I read a lot about with Sigmund Freud.
It's really interesting. Yeah, and I mean, in this process that we go through, you know, and kind of like from my experience, and you know, definitely want to hear your experience. You know, when I first came into the program, it was definitely as a, you know, as a person, as a human being, right? I came into this program right in the beginning of like the pandemic, you know, so it was kind of an interesting time for me personally. You know, I just had babies. Well, not me, my wife, right? And you know, so like life was just, what was that?
You guys have twins?
No, well, 2 daughters, but close by, so like about a year and a half apart. So, you know, so have 2 daughters, 2 little daughters, and then just going through all this, and then working from home, so locked up inside the office like all day, and you know, just kind of going through all this, and then can't go outside, can't do anything, right? Everybody has to wear a mask, and then this whole pandemic and the COVID and the shots and like all this stuff, and like it's like the end of the world, and it's like the world is on lockdown, and like all this stuff, right? And that's when I came into the program, into this, right? Because I was even separating my own personal stuff as a United States Navy veteran, you know, kind of with my own problems, my own things I got to deal with, you know, and like being like, oh, you have this, you have that. I'm like, oh, nice, okay. So I have all these things. I'm like, you know what? There's nothing better than for me to be able to understand who the heck I am. What is wrong with me? Like, what is this all about? You know? So like coming into this and like understanding like more about like what is it that's wrong with me has just made me think of like more like, oh my God, this is also interesting, because there never is going to be like a complete answer to everything. But now I know where to look. That's the good part, right? Now I know, and I'm looking at that right now. That DSM-5 is right there, you know, to help me, right? I'm looking at that book right. It's right there on my little shelf. Right there. No, should I turn it on my shelf? Hold on. Let me see my shelf. No, I'm gonna mess it up. Hold on. Oh, what did I do? See, look. Everybody witness that. Look, that DSM-5 is right there. See that?
I need a bookshelf.
That DSM-5 is right there. And as I'm looking at it, I'm just like thinking, like, man, it's so amazing, because I had no idea kind of like what this was. I had no idea kind of like what I was getting myself into, except I know I needed help, but I needed more help of helping myself. So doing this, my God, it has just helped me in such a way that it's amazing. And listening to everybody else that, you know what, I'm not alone. We all come into this, with our own baggage, we all have our own little baggage, we all have our stories, but to be able to like now somehow, some way help others and to understand not just ourselves, but understand that there really is not a complete, clear, like definition or like result of like, this is the solution to it. But instead it's like, hey, there is hope, there is alternatives, and there is an understanding that, you know what, like we'll figure out a way, we'll be okay. That's kind of like what this whole thing has done for me. So, got a little deep right there. But I cry a little bit. Oh my God, cry a little bit for yourself. What has it been for you? Like kind of like since you've started the program for you, and kind of like since what you talked about, going through your experiences and having your, your conditions and the things that you've been battling and stuff. Like what has going through this program so far done for you as a person?
I think I was super excited to just start it, and then going through it, there's some of the professors give like crazy good wisdom. Like there's been some professors that they've just like given you really good wisdom. There's one professor, cultural and diversity course, and it wasn't him, it was one of the other professors that I haven't had yet, but I actually want to have him. And he went about talking about how words like just like the true power of words, like how really truly powerful they are. Like how like it's even biblical, like your tongue has the power of life and death. But
so
like
powerful.
I remember like his like one of his like things that we had to watch, and when I was listening through it, it was just like really like powerful. And so I think like just the wisdom from certain professors I really like to take it in. So that's one thing I really like through the program is like the wisdom from some professors. And then like the stuff we're learning is definitely stuff that we need to know while in treatment. I don't think I have all of it memorized at all though. Like I kind of remember it, like I'll remember it, like I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember it. But like saying that I know all of it like completely and perfectly, not completely and perfectly. I'm gonna continuously like review it.
Yes. And for me, it's over and over again. Carrying my little pocket DSM-5 belt the other day in class. I saw somebody with a book. Oh no, was it Brett who had that pocket DSM-5?
Yeah, I think it was Brett that had the pocket DSM-5.
Brett, that's so awesome. I need to get me one.
Was it like the pocket DSM-5?
I have no idea. I didn't even know it was a pocket DSM-5 until I saw it. I was like, whoa.
Oh yeah.
I was like, whoa. I thought it was cool because I was like, I have it on my phone, on my DSM-5 here. No, there's an actual book. It's a little pocket. Man, it's awesome. Can't deny that. Can't deny that's awesome because DSM-5 has a lot of answers. Not all of them, but it has a lot. And that's so good. So, definitely, I mean, look, it's been awesome. It's been awesome having this session here with you, this episode. As we're coming to that point, kind of like to the close of it, we're getting close to it right now. Is there anything that you would want to share? This podcast is for us to listen and to remember these points of our lives and what we talked about and where we were at this point of our life. And for other people, like literally like around the world. Like, I mean, when I see the geographics of where people are listening, I mean, people are listening from Bahrain, people are listening from Australia, people are listening from, and it's like, wow, that's amazing. I guess people who are in or interested in just look up psychology. I don't know how they find it, but they find it and it tells you right there that they're listening, and it's awesome. So for, I guess, everybody out there all over the world listening, right? What is your advice and your words of wisdom that you have for new coming students and for others that are interested, kind of like in this, knowing more about this field, about mental health, about psychology, about counseling? What wisdom do you have to share on that?
I guess I would say when you're in the program and while you're going through your career, I just would say don't rush it. Um, just like take it as it goes. Um, yeah, don't rush it. Take it as it goes. Learn as you go, because if you try to rush it, then you're not like actually experiencing it in the moment. You're not actually living your life in the moment. And the whole point of this career is not like to really even reach a finishing ground. It's to cultivate yourself throughout the whole process. Because even once you're certified, you're going to continue to probably get specialties. And
Mhm.
then if you have one specialty, you're probably going to want to do another specialty. And
Yeah.
then once you maybe finish up 5 years one place, you want to open up your own practice. Like, so
Uh-huh.
this career is the kind of career that you literally can do so much in. So there's no point in trying to reach to any kind of finish line, because you have so much that you can do. And that I can see people doing this career up until like, well, even beyond retirement, if it's something that
Mhm.
they have passion for. So I just would say to like enjoy it, use your senses, like to find out what you actually really want to do in it. And then also don't do it if it's something that you want money out of or anything like that. Do it because you have a passion for mental health, because you find it actually interesting. Like
Mhm.
you find these things interesting. And also because there's something within you that feels actually drawn to it. Because I feel like any kind of job that is so demanding of you as a person is something that you have to feel a passion for. Because if not, you're going to regret the money that you invested into it.
Yeah, that is very powerful. Very powerful. Enjoy it. Take it in. Don't rush it. Like get, the best from it, and not just, that's wonderful. I'm gonna take that personally. I'm gonna write that down and put that in my for myself. That was good stuff. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That was awesome. So thank you so much. I appreciate for your time, kind of like on this podcast. It's been awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And to all those listening, thank you for your continuing support to listening to this podcast, which is why we keep it going, because obviously there's people listening. And to all of those listening, thank you so much. And to each and every one of our friends and our cohort, our family, it's amazing. Everybody keep up the great work. And hey, till next time, have a great one. Take care and just sit, relax, and you know what? Let's talk. Goodbye. Have a great one. Thank you so much. Goodbye.